He laughed in my face. "You'll never prove what I did." I covered every track. I didn't answer right away. Just stared at him steady. Then I said calmly, "We'll see." That's when I slid the folder across the table. The folder full of emails he forgot to delete. The room went dead silent. But let me back up. I'm Daniel, 34. I worked 6 years at a mid-sized logistics firm. Started as an analyst, worked up to project manager. I wasn't flashy, but I delivered. My boss trusted me with complex accounts because I never missed deadlines. My colleague, let's call him Mark, was the opposite. Loud, charming, always joking. He loved being the center of attention. At first we got along. I even covered for him a few times when he forgot details. But over time I noticed a pattern. When projects succeeded, he took the credit. When they failed, he blamed me. At first I brushed it off, but then came the Henderson account. A huge deal, worth millions. I spent months negotiating terms, running numbers, coordinating teams. Mark barely contributed. Then during the final presentation to executives, he cut me off mid-sentence and presented my work as his own. Everyone clapped. My boss shook his hand. I just sat there stunned. That was the first slap. The second came 3 weeks later. A client complaint landed on my desk. Data errors. Missing invoices. Mark told management I handled that part, which was a lie. I defended myself, but without proof, it was my word against his. My reputation took a hit. The third slap? The promotion list. I was expecting recognition for years of work. Instead, Mark's name was there. Mine wasn't. That night I went home and sat in the dark. I wasn't angry. I was cold, because I realized this wasn't incompetence. It was deliberate. He was undermining me, step by step, pushing me down while climbing over me. That's when I decided to fight back. Quietly. I stopped covering for him. I started documenting. Every late night I spent fixing his errors, I logged. Every email chain where I sent him corrections, I saved. Every file with my name stripped out, I archived. Then, the break I needed came by accident. One Friday, Mark left his laptop in the office overnight. IT ran routine updates on all machines. Monday morning, I saw something strange. He had left his email open. Not the company account, his personal Gmail. He must have forgotten to log out. I shouldn't have looked. But something told me to, and what I found froze me. Emails between him and a competitor. Months of back and forth. Attachments of pricing models. Confidential contracts. He wasn't just sabotaging me, he was selling company secrets. I screenshotted everything, saved copies, printed hard evidence. Then I waited. The day came faster than I thought. A client threatened to pull out after confidential pricing leaked. Management panicked. They called a meeting. Mark sat there smug, shaking his head, acting concerned. "Could be Daniel. He handles those files," he said, looking straight at me. That's when I opened the folder. Emails, attachments, dates, times, proof. His face drained of color. He laughed, I told the executives. Said I'd never prove it, that he covered every track, except he forgot these. The CEO took the papers, read silently, then looked up at him. The room was silent except for the sound of Mark's chair creaking as he shifted. "Mark," the CEO said slowly, "step outside." His smirk was gone. He stood, walked out, not looking at me. The rest of the meeting was chaos. Legal called in, HR joined. The board was notified. By end of day, Mark's access was revoked, his laptop confiscated. Within a week, he was fired. But that wasn't enough, because while the company moved on, I wanted more. I wanted him to feel everything he'd tried to put me through, and I knew exactly how. Mark thought losing his job was the end. He had no idea it was only the beginning. 3 days after his firing, word spread quietly through the office. People whispered in the hallways, sent each other links. His LinkedIn still said Senior Manager, Logistics Solutions, but everyone knew the truth. He was out. That should have been enough. But I remembered every time he laughed at me behind my back, every time he stole credit, every time he almost tanked my career with lies. I remembered the promotion list, his smug grin when my name wasn't there. I remembered him leaning back in his chair saying, You'll never prove it. So no, losing his job wasn't enough. I reached out to the legal team. See, those emails didn't just show corporate sabotage. They showed him actively sharing confidential financial models with a competitor. That's corporate espionage. And in our industry, that's not just grounds for firing, it's criminal. I forwarded everything to legal. They escalated it. Within a week, I was called into a meeting with outside counsel. They thanked me for keeping records. They said my documentation was airtight. They asked if I'd testify if it came to court. I didn't hesitate. Meanwhile, Mark tried spinning his own story. He messaged coworkers claiming I framed him. He told friends I had always been jealous of him. He even sent me a text. "You think you've won? You just painted a target on your back. Don't sleep too easy." I didn't reply. Instead, I screenshotted it and sent it to HR. Another note in the file. Then the dominoes started to fall. First, industry rumors. Competitors who had once entertained his friendly drinks started avoiding him. Our field is tight-knit. Once word spreads, you can't be trusted. You're done. Second, his reputation tanked online. Former co-workers from years ago suddenly spoke up. Stories of him throwing others under the bus, cutting corners, cheating clients. Nobody had believed them before. Now, with proof of his betrayal, every story sounded true. Third, his finances. When he lost his job, he lost his company car, his expense account, his steady paycheck. He had just bought a condo last year, stretching his mortgage thin. Without income, cracks appeared fast. I didn't gloat. I didn't brag. I just worked. Because here's the kicker. I'd already been talking to investors. The project Mark had tried to steal credit for? That was mine. I had built it from the ground up. And when the board realized I'd been the one carrying the real work all along, they backed me fully. 3 months later, I wasn't just an employee. I was promoted to head of a new division. The one Mark had always dreamed of running. The irony wasn't lost on anyone, but the story didn't end there. Because one morning I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was the district attorney's office. They wanted to meet. They had received a file, my file, containing evidence of Mark's emails. They were opening an investigation. I met them, handed over everything. Printed logs, digital timestamps, proof. They told me straight. This is strong enough to prosecute. I left that meeting feeling lighter than I had in years. Mark had laughed at me, said I'd never prove it, that he covered every track, but now he was facing something much bigger than my anger. He was facing prison. Weeks later, the trial began. I walked into the courtroom wearing the same calm expression I wore the day he smirked at me. He sat at the defense table, pale, thinner, hair unkempt. No smirk this time, just wide eyes darting everywhere but at me. When it was my turn to testify, I told the truth. Plain, direct, no extra words. Just what happened, what I saw, what I documented. The folder of emails was entered into evidence. Every line, every attachment, every date was read aloud. I watched jurors glance at each other, their expressions tightening. Mark didn't laugh this time. He buried his face in his hands. The verdict came back guilty on multiple counts of corporate fraud and breach of trust. He avoided prison through a plea deal, but the financial penalties alone were crushing. 6 figures in fines, lifetime ban from certain industries, reputation gone for good. When the judge read the sentence, I looked at him. He finally looked back. No words, just defeat in his eyes. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just stood, nodded once, and walked out. Revenge wasn't about shouting or bragging. It was about patience, documentation, precision, and the patience paid off. After the trial, I thought it was over. I thought Mark would disappear quietly. But people like him don't vanish. They drag everyone down with them. First came the family fallout. His wife left within weeks. She hadn't known about his lies, the late-night business meetings, the secret bank accounts. Divorce papers hit his doorstep fast. She took the kids and moved back to her parents. When she testified during custody hearings, she said one sentence that stuck with me. He doesn't know how to tell the truth, even at the dinner table. Then came the financial collapse. He tried freelancing, pitching himself as a consultant. Nobody hired him. Investors had seen the court records. Every door shut. He defaulted on his condo. The bank repossessed it. Rumor was he moved into a one-bedroom rental on the edge of town. Meanwhile, I was building. The new division I ran grew fast. The project Mark tried to claim? It became the cornerstone of a multi-million-dollar strategy. Investors loved it. Clients signed contracts one after another. And every success put more distance between me and the man who once said I'd never prove anything. One afternoon, I walked into a board meeting and saw a familiar name on the agenda. A competitor had considered hiring him as a mid-level advisor. They wanted to ask my opinion. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't rant. I just slid a copy of the court verdict across the table. That was enough. His name disappeared from the list. Months passed. Then, one night, I ran into him. It was at a late coffee shop near downtown. He looked smaller, hunched, clothes wrinkled. His hands shook as he stirred a paper cup of cheap coffee. For a second, he didn't notice me. Then he did. His eyes widened, then narrowed. "You," he muttered. I didn't move. Just looked at him. "You ruined me," he hissed. "You destroyed my life." I stayed calm. "No, Mark, you destroyed yourself. I just kept the receipts." He laughed, bitter and broken. "You think you're better than me? You'll end up just like me. Alone." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I left him there, muttering into his coffee. That was the last time I saw him. But his shadow stayed. Not as fear, not as anger, as a reminder, because here's the truth. Revenge isn't fire. It isn't shouting or screaming. Revenge is ice. Quiet, patient, sharp. He thought he covered every track. He thought lies could bury truth. He thought laughter would protect him. And in the end, all it took was one folder. One folder of emails he forgot to delete. It ended his career, his marriage, his reputation, his freedom, and me? I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I just kept building, step by step. Success became my silence. Peace became my answer. He laughed once. The whole room laughed with him. But the last laugh wasn't his. It was mine.